My name is Lamin Jai, and this is an exclusive interview with Mr. Samba Baldeh. Mr. Baldeh is a Gambian-American who left the Gambia in the year 2000, and he now lives in Madison, Wisconsin. Mr. Baldeh actually is making massive waves in politics in the United States. He's my guest today, and we will be talking about his journey, his career as a politician. Mr. Baldeh, thank you very much, sir, for accepting to speak to the Fatu Network.
Well, thank you, Lamin, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You left the Gambia in the year 2000 for the United States. What were your expectations?
Yep, so obviously, as you are right, I left the Gambia about 20 years ago, to the United States. What led to that was I was a very active young man in Gambia, a youth activist, I would call myself. And so my ambition coming to America was first to be exposed to the bigger world and see how it works, and really understand how it also works. So when I immigrated here, I decided to live here. I started doing school here also. I started in Gambia, but then when I came here, I continued my education. My expectations were really to go to school, get me good education, work hard, and get me successful. And that's exactly what I did. Basically, once I got here, I registered and then started going to school as a software engineer, graduated, and then picked up a job with a company that I have worked with all my life in the United States. For the past 20 years, that's the only company outside of the businesses that I started, is the only company I work for. And so I worked there as a software engineer. And so my expectation in general, like I said, was to get here, get good education, expose myself to the world, and see how things are done differently, get the good part and incorporate them into what I intended to do, and see how I can make life different for myself, but also my community and possibly my country and my continent and my people generally. And so the expectation was to be educated, and be able to do something to change what I think need to change in my neighborhood, but also in Gambia.
How was the transition, the transmogrification, if you like for you, leaving the Gambia, your country, as a young man, emigrating to the United States? Clearly, the cultures are different, the environments are different, the climes are different. How was it like for you in terms of integration, in terms of the culture, differences there?
Yeah, so it obviously was a cultural shock. So imagine I came from Choya. If you're familiar with that part of the Gambia, is in the what used to be called Makati Island Division, and I'm from Nyamina, which also that's where Choya is located, just after you pass the Pakaliba Bridge. And so coming from a village like that to a United States in places like DC was where I came first, and then spent maybe a month or so, then moved to New York, the second, I think, biggest next to Los Angeles, the biggest city in the United States, from basically not even a village, a hamlet. So there was a lot of cultural shock. It's like this is a different planet. And so our cultures are different, our way of life is different, our food is different, everything basically is different. And so, but again, it was also very challenging. When I got here, I was like, well, this is really, really difficult. Is this something that I can do? Or really, let me just go back to Gambia and continue living life the way I am used to living it. But I also did understand that this world is full of challenges. And so giving up is the first step for failure. And so I decided to, push it along. And so I moved to the state of Wisconsin, started schooling. Again, as you may note, Americans speak in a different accent than we do. And so coming here for the first time, generally when you speak English, it's like you're speaking Creole or Greek to them. And so just that transition from your local accent or the accent that you grew up in Africa to being able to communicate here, because obviously if you have to work and be able to communicate with people here, you must speak the language that they understand. Of course, in Gambia we speak English, but just the accent really made it difficult to communicate. So all those challenges came about, and you never know in detail what these challenges are until you live the life here. And so, but I was able to work hard on it. I knew that, this is where I want to make my home. And so if I have to make this my home and be successful here, then I have to find a way to really integrate into the culture, while at the same time really reserving or not letting go my Gambian cultures that I think are very important to who I want to be in life, and but just for just for what I think will help me to be successful. And so yes, it was a cultural challenge, but work through it. Imagine from that cultural shock to now being serving in a legislative body in the state capital of my state is it's a long way.
It's been a long way there. I was going to come to that because someone who was trained as a software engineer and now a politician. I mean, why politics? How did you end up in the field of politics?
Right, yep. So the way I see the world is that, I always sit and ask myself, what can you do about situations? So when I was in the Gambia, I was in privilege. Like I said, I came from, the rural areas. Obviously, my family wasn't poor in a real context. But even when I was in Gambia, I started what they call the Kanifing East Youth Development Society. This was a very active youth development. We worked with Lendehan at the time, and also the Josuang Youth Group, Mumudu Saladem, who is in the UK now, Jiva, who used to head the Lendehan. So I did a lot of work around that. So when I came here, my curiosity was around computers. Growing up in Gambia, obviously, I went to Armitage and Gambia High School. I was never exposed to a computer. It was only after I did high school, then I started registering for, there were some Nigerians who will conduct these typing classes or something. So I was just curious. The first place I saw a computer was at the Bahai Center on the highway to Bakau or something. So when I moved here, my curiosity was around computers, but my heart is always to helping other people and being a part of my community. So I decided to go to school for software engineering. So that's what I do for living. But what I do to be happy is to service others. And I do this genuinely from my heart. It's not a career. I know when you're a politician, you are attached to all these negative kind of connotations and stuff like that. But I do this to give back to my community. I do it because I think I owe it to myself, to the Black community, but also the African continent, and Gambia in particular in this case. And so these are the reasons why I really am doing politics. But my curiosity and interest is in technology.
So specifically there, your political career there, I mean, when and how did it, start in Wisconsin?
Yeah, so like I said, once I get here, I went to school for computer programming. Once I graduated, this company, I was already working for it as an internal agent. So I was selling insurance, property, casualty, life insurance. And so as soon as I graduated from school, I was employed as a software engineer for the company. And so I grew up from there to a role of a manager. That's what I hold right now. And so, obviously like I said, community development politics is what I really like to do as a human being, to give back. And so that passion and interest may have to be natural, I don't know, but it's something that I'm really very, very interested in. But I also know in America, you have to have a living. And I knew that, my curiosity, I think everybody has a curiosity around them, around the world. What does this world mean? I mean, how can I be a part of it to an extent that I have some impact? And I thought, technology was one part that I can explore to see how I can be a part of a global something. It was either that or some other sciences in the field of medical or space science or things like that was my curiosity. And so it's like more, they are parallel. It's not like I switch from a community person to a software engineer. These were parallel paths. I see them as if this is my passion and this is what I like to do for work.
Wonderful. So now let us also talk about. I mean, you are an older man, someone who is an elected official of the city council there in Madison. How easy or otherwise is it for an African American, to run for some of these seats there, if you like, to be an alderman in Madison? How easy or otherwise is it?
Yeah, so running for office is just as difficult as it is in the Gambia. Politics is not easy. It can be dirty, it can be crazy. And no matter how you see it in Gambia, it has the same traits or elements in the United States as well. So the challenges are that I'm a black person from Africa. I'm a black person with accent. I'm a black Muslim in a predominantly Christian country and communities and things like that. So there are a lot of challenges. You also have to understand the culture. How do you really talk to Americans to believe that, in fact, they should even listen to? So those challenges were there. But like I said, once I get here, I knew I want to make this my home. And so therefore, I built on my cultural understanding of this community and tried to integrate. And the way I did that was really to be part of the community. So I am a big volunteer. So for example, I'm a big brother. So I go to school and mentor kids and talk to them about life and what is good and what is bad. I volunteer with the AIDS network. I have been to Colombia and other countries outside of the United States to advocate for human rights and things like that. So I really find a way to blend into the culture and really learn it and understand it better. I think the more you understand people, the more you can really connect with them. So the challenges are there. So when I was running for city council, the guy I ran for was there for, I think, 5 times. He was very well connected, a big guy and all that. But what I did was, as part of my community activism, was to invite him to a meeting and say, all these things are happening. If you guys were paying attention to American politics around 2012, 2013, and 14, there was a lot of tension between law enforcement and our black community, what we call African American community. And so I was disturbed by that. And I asked myself, Samba, what can you do outside of your normal advocacy? Because I knew at the point that some of these things are legislation. They can only change them through legislation. You cannot change them just by getting in the street and demonstrating and asking for stuff. If the law says this, that's what it got to be, no matter where you go. And so I invited my representative to talk about these issues and how he was going to address them. That didn't go so very well. And so that was one motivating factor for me to really say, look, Samba, you need to do more than this. So I decided to run. So it was challenging, but at the end of the day, I was able to win with a very close margin. And another opportunity presents itself this year, and I think this is the next level of my service. Again, this is not career for me. I don't see myself as a politician or something. I see myself as an advocate of the people, and I look at ways that I can better advocate for them and try to follow those paths. A lot of people ask me why not Gambia and all that kind of stuff, but I'm like, I'm more interested in the general good than just specific political stuff. So the challenges are there. Right now, I am running against 3 other white people. Imagine they were born here. Some of them are attorneys. They've been working as attorneys until they've retired. And so it's going to be very challenging. And so my budget, I'm looking to raise from $60,000 to at least $100,000 to be successful in this campaign. So it's a lot of work. And also, the fact that this year the campaign is going to be different, where you cannot go door to door and talk to people. You cannot organize forum where people come and then candidates talk to them, like debates, you will call it. So all these things are challenges in this election cycle. And so what I have been doing is to focus mainly on digital, to make sure that I use a lot of Facebook targeted advertisement, a lot of Twitter activities, Instagram, and Zoom meetings. So, for example, I would invite community leaders and talk about the impact of COVID-19 in their lives. I'll also invite business owners and talk to them about the impact of COVID-19 on their lives and the stay-at-home orders and all the things that we are dealing with around the pandemic. So all these challenges are out there, but again, who is going to do it for us as people of color if we think that this is difficult and therefore we should not focus and do something about it? So this is my motivation. For me, lack of trying is the biggest failure. And so once I make an assessment of a situation and I see myself sincerely having a role to play, I find a way to play that role, with all sincerity and honesty, but also I give it my best all the time. And so, yes, challenges are there, but again, who is going to do it? There is nothing good is easy. Everything that is good is really, in many cases, very difficult to do. But again, this is all our world, this is all our universe, and so angels will not come to do this. We have to do it on our own. And so the challenges I understand, but again, responsibility I also have to take up on.
Yes, thank you very much, Alderman there. So, but Alderman, let's talk about, let me bring you a little back. We are going to go to the next step for you in your political career. I want to bring you a little back in terms of your aldermanic service there. What does it entail? Can you take us through that as, the order for District 17?
Yep. So, the alderman in the United States, like every locality is free to name things the way they like to name them. So if you take it to a Gambian context, it's like what you will call a councillor, if you look at KMC, for example. So that's what an older person is. So there are a lot of, political correctness in this country. So instead of an alderman, they will just say older to make sure that you are not offending other people. But it's like a councillor in the context of Gambia, for example, KMC. So our responsibility as elders, we deal with people directly. The difference between here and Gambia is like day and night in terms of the responsibilities that elected council members, or in this case, older people, have. So we are the legislative branch of the city of Madison. So every other Tuesday we meet. Sometimes we meet until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, legislating. Every little bitty stuff that has to do with life in our city, we basically are responsible for legislating around it. There are other places where the state has to deal with that, and there are other places where the county has right over us, and then this federal government. But our whole responsibility is legislation. So we deal with people. Any and everything that has to do with development is our responsibility. Everything that has to do with road construction is our responsibility. Housing, name it. It's the council responsibility to legislate, and then the executive branch, which is the mayor and his employees at the executive branch, who really are responsible for enforcing what we legislate. But we are a legislative branch. That's what we do here. This is very important, though. Americans are a little bit different from Africans. We generally pay attention to national politics. Many Americans pay attention to their local politics. For example, in Gambia now, if you ask people about America, they can tell you tons of things that Samba who live here do not know. You ask them about Europe, they can tell you tons of things that even somebody who lives in Europe doesn't know. But Americans, you ask them about their neighborhood, they can tell you everything you want to know. You ask them about their state sometimes, they don't know. And that is how you can bring good in your community. Local concentration. In Gambia, everybody focuses on the central government, it's the president and all that kind of stuff. But that's just one person. If, for example, Manjai Kunda or Kanifing Estate needs a stadium, they need something, they should go after their local government. They should be their direct contact and people to deal with. And so as a legislative body, we are the first contact in terms of our residents, in terms of our constituents. And so it's a difficult responsibility, but that's what we do as a legislative branch.
You have been doing this work for District 7, but before that, District 17, is it a predominantly black community, or what is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so District 17 is, I mean, for example, if you Google Madison, we are at the far east side of the city, and we border with another city called Sun Prairie, where you have a good concentration of immigrants as well, particularly Gambians. My district, over 90-something white people. I mean, it's not even close to any black people. I mean, it's predominantly, overwhelmingly white. So no, it is you can spot black people here and there, or Latino, Hispanic here and there, but it's predominantly white.
It's predominantly white there. But now, what we have also seen is that you are trying to climb a little higher the ladder. Now you want to run your finance. I think it was in March. Since 2015, if I am right, you have been working as an older man. Now you want to climb a little higher by running for the 48th Assembly District seat in your state there. So and also what we know, what we understand is that you'll be locking heads with the likes of Walter Stewart and Lindsay Lemma, if I'm right. So do you have any complexes at all running against some of these people clearly who have made their mark in politics in your state?
So I'm not sure if I hear the question. So you are saying if I have any complexity running against
whether you have any
white
complexes running against people that some would say are well known, very famous in your state?
Yeah, so I think democracy is everybody's game. And so if you live in a community, that community becomes your home, then it is your responsibility that community looks like the way you want it to look like. And it is your responsibility then that you find a way to make sure that rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff is reflective of how you want to live in that community. So it may be a white majority community, but it is equally my community. So whether it's white majority, black majority, whatever it is my community. And so I don't feel any complexity running against anybody. And I have no complexity going to white people and advocating for what I think is right for my community from a black man's perspective, or from at least a person of color's perspective. And so, no, I feel no complexity. They and I and everybody who lives in this country is as ours as anybody else. So my ancestors were brought here about 400 years ago, not on their will. And so more the reason why I in fact own this country like any other person. And so no, I have no complexity going into my white neighborhood and asking them to vote for me, and that I'd be their best representative as a matter of reality.
So the district seat there, the 48th Assembly District seat, that would be equivalent to a National Assembly member in the Gambia. Is that correct?
Yep, so that is correct. It will be equivalent to what you call National Assembly members. So again, the way America is structured, we have two houses that form a Congress. So we have the Senate, we have the House of Representatives. So the one I'm running for is the House of Representatives. So the House of Representatives and the Senate and the Senate is what form a Congress for every state and for the country. And so the two houses come together and legislate. So yes, it will be like running for a National Assembly in the Gambia.
In the Gambia. In your announcement in March, you did say that you are running to create, if I can quote you there, to create a Wisconsin that works for all people, not just a few. What
Yes.
made you say this?
So if you look at my website, my platform speaks to some of those issues. So the United States is the richest country in the world, but it is also challenged with a lot of issues. So if you're following American politics or news, right now the people who are suffering the most with regard to COVID-19 are black people. Why is that? It's because they have no access to healthcare that much. They also have a lot of underlying causes because they have no access to good food. They have a lot of underlying issues because they have no access to good education. They have all these underlying issues because they are incarcerated disproportionately to their white counterparts. And so I am running to make sure that that is not the case, that this Wisconsin, in fact, work for everybody equally. It shouldn't matter whether you are a Latino, you are a black person, or you are a white person. The justice system should be fair to everybody. Access to healthcare should be for everybody. The federal government has a lot of money that they can invest on Medicare and Medicaid to expand it and give poor people access to healthcare. I will advocate for that. There's also a lot of resources that we can reach out to from the federal government to the state government and make sure that our kids are being educated well and they are graduating in large numbers as opposed to what is happening now. The other thing is the wealth gap. Almost every white person in this country has something to inherit. Black people hardly have wealth in this country. So I want to make sure that that gap is not widening. So I want to make sure that I advocate for people of color to have access to capital so they can start businesses and be successful that way, but also to have something that their kids can inherit from. I also believe that advocating for the criminal justice system reform will give us a better platform to make sure that Wisconsin works for everybody. And so all these, among others, are the reason why I think Wisconsin, I as the representative, will help it be a Wisconsin for everybody as opposed to just a few.
Thank you. So now let me ask you this. What can the Gambia learn from the United States, politics-wise?
So in America, every citizen, whether you are a natural born or a naturalized citizen, you can vote. If you reach 18 years and older, you can vote in elections. You can also donate money to a political campaign. You can also participate by either calling people, going door to door, talking to people, or going to forum, or inviting candidates to forum to talk about their platform and ask them questions. So every American citizen can do that. Every American resident who is legally staying here legally, you have a green card to stay here and go and come, but you are not a citizen, can donate to any campaign you want to donate. You can participate in any political processes that you want to participate in, except that you cannot run for office and you cannot vote in any election, but you can be part of the process. So Africans or Gambians who live in the United States, no matter where they live in the United States, can donate to my campaign. And the website is samba4stateassembly.com. And that is Samba and the number 4, stateassembly.com. So any Gambian, if you're a citizen of the United States or a green card holder who is legal, can donate to my campaign. You can also volunteer. So for example, today Osman is with me. We are about to head out and collect some nomination signatures. So if people have time to do that, they can go to the website. There's a form to fill out. But also, you know, this is a social media world now. It shouldn't matter where you are. Lamin, for example, you can grab my website, put it on your Facebook feed, and say something about Samba. And maybe you have friends in America who will see that. If it was not you, they'll not see that. So there are so many ways to really help the campaign. But the biggest thing that we are looking for right now, looking at the current situation, is money. Without money, you cannot win campaign in this country. It's the opposite of Gambia. If you are running in many parts of Africa, I should say, if you are running, you have to have a lot of money to give people to vote for you. It's the opposite here. The people that you are wanting to represent will have to give you money. And the reason for that is they want to thank you for putting your time. It's no different from serving in the military in the United States, at least. They respect that. They think people who are doing that should be helped. And so that's where this contribution is coming from, that Samba is giving his time, all these politicians, as you may call us, giving up their time, and so therefore let's support them. So the biggest thing that we need right now is money. But for people who are in Gambia who are not American citizen or legally resident here, what you can do is share it prayer is very important, but really reaching out to people also is very, very important. So reach out to your friends, share the link. There is a donation link. Say, for example, even in my state here, if all the Gambians were to give, let's say, $50, I'll be at least 100,000 tomorrow.
Yeah, it's exactly there. So this is every
yeah.
Gambian who lives in the United States can donate to your campaign there. I think this is very important. The link, we would find a way. If you could, can you just say, do you have the link by head? Can you say the link? That way, if people want to donate, they can.
Yep. So the website, like I said, is Samba. Like my name is. Yeah. No, there's no chat window. It's Skype. Oh, is there a chat window? I don't see a chat window here. So anyway, Usman think there's a chat window. Okay, here, yeah.
Have you been able to find it?
Uh-huh.
But then, yes.
Yep. So, so the website is Samba, like my name, SAMBA, then the number 4, like 4, stateassembly.com. So I just put it on the chat window. Yes, there's a chat window.
Great, great.
So anybody can go there, fill out a volunteer form if you're in the United States or if you're in the state of Wisconsin or Madison around here. If you are not and you are legal in this country or that you are a citizen, then you can also hit on the donation button from $10. The maximum donation is $1,000. That's what everybody else can give. You cannot give more than $1,000. But anything and everything helps. Like I said, campaigns are very expensive in this country, but it's worth doing it. We have 400 years of black people history in this country, and yet in Georgia, for example, they can take a gun and kill somebody who was joking. So these are serious matters that my colleagues, my neighbors here needs to hear. And so hearing it from a person of color who lives through this, from being an immigrant to living a black person's life and a Muslim life in this country, it is important that we all find a way. I am the candidate, but the benefit is not me. And I hope people don't see it that somebody is exploring a political something. No, I mean, my private job will make me hundreds of thousands of dollars more than my political thing. And so I just want people to understand that this is about us as black people. This is about us as people who live in the United States. This is about us as communities that has been incarcerated or basically for the past 400 years. Look at Africa, for example. Pinpoint me one country that you can call a developed country. Nothing, non-existent. Do we want to live like that as human beings, black people, that we are always look at as less of a human being? So therefore, it is all our responsibility. This is not about Samba. Like if I want to just live life in America today and enjoy it, I have a beautiful house, tons of room. I can fit the whole of Choya in my house here. I can live life and just enjoy it. But then at my last days as a human being, about to pass to the next world or whatever, or die, and I reflect, and all I did was just work hard for myself and my family and nothing else for the human race, I don't know, I will believe that I'll go to heaven. I think at that point, I'll be really regretting what I used my life for. We can all do this differently. What you guys are doing at this network is also applaudable. I mean, we all can change the world in different ways, but we just don't have to sit there and say, well, when I do this, I'm going to help Lamin to be better. Well, when you make Lamin to be better, maybe Lamin's kid will make your kids be better, if that is how you want to look at it. But overall, this whole community is integrated. When the corona started in China, within weeks and months, it was in every part of the globe. Think about it, it was there. That is how we are interconnected. And so just making Lamin be successful at the Fatu network does not mean that Samba cannot be successful or Osman cannot be successful at the other end. So I think that's a mentality that we need to work on a little bit, that this is a global place where we all have to find a way to support each other at where our strengths are. So if Lamin is better at journalism, and I have an opportunity to connect him with the best school of journalism in the United States or in the UK or India, wherever, then I should do that. I shouldn't look at my immediate interests and be like, you know, if I have no interest, therefore, why should I be interested in helping Lamin? So I am the candidate, but I think the issues are all our issues, and we have to work on them.
Aldous Baldeh, let me just ask you this question that before we wrap up. What do you make of the role or the contribution of Gambians in your community, Gambians who live in the United States? What do you make of their contribution in the development of your community or the United States at large, in fact?
So I wouldn't have been here politically without the contribution of the Gambian community, but generally I would say without the contribution of our immigrant community. Just before we started this meeting, I had a meeting with the Pakistani Indian cricket community, a community that I've worked with for the past 6 years. So the Gambian community is very, very supportive. I cannot thank them enough. The immigrant community, the broader immigrant community is very supportive. I cannot thank them enough. And so they are very supportive. The difference with this year, generally, they are very generous with their time. They would come during my previous campaign. We will meet at a place. We'll do what we call turf cutting. So everybody will be given a piece of paper. Always be very generous with their time, and they will come and we will go do that. This time around, we are on a stay-at-home order or lockdown where you cannot knock somebody's house. They'll be angry at you and may not vote for you. So this time around, we cannot do that. So, and I know many times, many Gambians, apart from their families back in the US here or abroad anywhere, they are also supporting other families back home. So I understand the constraint with regards to money. But at the same time, this cannot happen without money. So I'm still calling them, asking them to donate money. And so they are very responsive that way. So I'm very, very thankful to not only the Gambian community, but to the greater immigrant community, including the Pakistani, the Indians, the Middle Eastern people generally, but also the African people.
Do you have any final words? Because we are in this crisis. Nobody knows really when it is going to blow over, the coronavirus crisis there. Do you have anything to say along those?
Yeah, so what I would say is that Lamin and your team continue doing what you are doing. Every little bitty stuff that we do contributes to our being a better community, a better country, a better continent, a better people, and a well-respected and recognized people. It is heartbreaking to look at our status as Black people in the context of the world and not be able to do something. So I would say keep up the good work that you are doing. There will be disagreement. There will be people who will pull you down here and there, but keep doing what you are doing. From my end of the campaign, all I can say is thank you for inviting me to have a conversation with you. I hope a lot of Gambians will take this in good faith and engage me. You are not Americans here in America, but every American who live in America is my constituent. So if you are a Gambian who live in Atlanta, if you are a Gambian who live in New York, if you're a Gambian who live in Chicago, if you're African or anybody, those are my constituent members. They can reach out to talk about issues. They can reach out to tell me about what they are experiencing and how I can help and work with them. So I encourage those people to really reach out, not only to me, but if there are local elected officials that they identify with, reach out to them. They may be African American, they may be Hispanic, they may be white. But be part of your local government, be part of your state government, be part of your county government. That is one way this country respects communities and gravitate towards them if we are active and all that. With regards to my campaign, I would, ask that whoever has access to internet and it's legal in this country to go and donate. Like I said, $10, $1, whatever you can donate. If you give a dollar, we can mail to 3 people. So at least I can put a literature like this one and send it out to at least 3 people for $1 or 2 people at least. So any and everything will help. So feel free to reach out, but go to the website, Samba for State Assembly, and donate generously. And reach out also. It's not only about the money, but also the policies. So if you live in the state, reach out to me. What am I going to do about immigration when I get elected? What am I going to do about unemployment in the wake of COVID-19? What am I going to do about education of our kids? What am I going to do about the juvenile detention centers and criminalization and all this kind of stuff? So there are tons of issues that really needs a lot of work, particularly from communities of color, to be at the table and articulate some of these things that they are feeling in their communities. So that would be my last word. I really thank you for taking the time. And just know that I'm a resource here as well. If you think there's something that I can do from this vantage point, let me know. I mean, if I can do, I will do. If I can't, I'll let you know clearly that this is outside of my reach, and let's try something else. So thank you.
Alder Samba, thank you very much. Someone clearly who is doing very well there, who needs every support there. We wish you the best of luck there, and I hope that Gambians will come out really to support you in your career there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lyman. I appreciate the time. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. That's Alder Samba Baldeh, politician and software engineer, speaking to us from Wisconsin. Thank you very much, Alder Samba, again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
So that's it for this interview. I am Lamin Jai. Until next time.